we'll be focusing on three topics. Now, before I start with AZ204, very important point here. AZ204 is kind of a bit of higher end Azure training, So what my honest suggestion would be that please go ahead and watch. So very quickly, let me close all this. Okay. Sorry for all this. Just close it. So my suggestion here would be that please go and first see all the basic videos. So whatever are the basic videos. Okay. So guys, first thing, if you are new to AZ204, if you are coming first time to the Questponse class, right, I would suggest to go and start with the first Azure step by step. This is for people who have joined in new today. So start with all this lab 1, lab 2, go through AZ900 as well. AZ900 is again a kind of a basic course, which will help you to understand. And then you start with 204, right? So first thing, we have completed like almost, I think, 14, 15 topic, 14, 15 lessons out there. You can see all have been uploaded here. And also I prepared these notes, for you to understand what are the questions, how to answer them and what fundamentals to learn and so on, right? So today, let us get started with this first question, which is around Azure Queue message, right? So Azure Queues, remember we have Azure Storage. So if you see, we have the Azure Storage. Azure Storage has blobs, it has tables, it has files, and it has queues. So the Azure Storage, what we see right out there. So Azure Storage, is like a big family which has, wherein you can go and you can store using simple file. So you can just, if you want just a shared drive or a hard drive, you can use the file storage. If you say no, like I want to go and store in a tabular format, a table and a column format, then you have the table. If you say I want to go and use queues, wherein I want to process the data in queues, then we also have queues. So basically, and we have blobs as well. Blobs are for videos or for huge files, or I will say they are mostly for streaming purposes, right? So this question, is revolving around these queues out here. So let us understand this question, and then we will go and try to do a demo. So you are developing an application that uses Azure Storage Queues. And this is a C# code, which is out here, which is published. Let me just quickly first explain you this C# code, and then we will also code the C# code. So we're going to go and do the full demo, so that we can understand the answer for this. So you can see here, this is the code out here. So first thing, the first line out here says that connect to the online storage account. So here you have to pass the connection string and connect to the online storage account. Second one is these two lines out here, or I'll say these three lines, 1, 2, and 3, tries to access the queue. So whatever is your queue, for example, at this moment, the name is my queue 1, 2, 3. So in that storage, remember this connects only to the storage. As I've said that first you have a storage, and then inside the storage, you can have queues, right? So here, this three lines out here, tries to go and connect to my queue 1, 2, 3, right? And if it does not exist, it will try to create it as well, right? And after that, this sentence out here goes and reads the message, peak message, that is a function which will help you to read it. And then you can see here, he's trying to display the message. Again, there is one more function here he has created called as get message. This also reads the function, reads the message in the queue, right? So very easy code, connects to the storage account, connects to our queues, reads the message, and here also it reads the message, and here he's displaying the message in the console, right? So if the peak message is not null, display it. So now with all this, let us try to understand the question, right? So in the question, he says that, tell me that which of these three sentences are true. This code configures the log duration for the queue. So that is one. This code configures the log duration for the queue. So let me explain you what this sentence means here. When you read a message from a queue, right? So in a queue, what happens is when you read a message, there is a lock duration. Means by default it locks it. Remember, in queue, one of the things we need to take care is that it should not try to double process it. So assume that you have a queue and you have data 1 in this and data 2. Now let us say there is one client out here, he reads data 2. When this data 2 is read, another client should not be able to read data 2, because if he's reading data 2, he will double process it. See, the point of queues is that, you have sent a message and you just want to process that message like a first in first out. So first in whatever has come in, we'll try to retrieve that message, process it and delete it, right? So he's saying that, does this go and configure any kind of duration? That is the first point, the first sentence out there. The second one is, does the last message reads remains in the queue? So he's saying that by doing a peek message or by doing a get message, does the message get deleted from the queue? By doing a peek message or by doing a get message, does it get deleted from the queue? And the last one is, the storage remains in the storage account after the code runs. So the last is like a contradiction to the first statement, saying that even if this is read, that message stays, right? So let me do like this. Let me go ahead and let me demonstrate all the concepts of queues here. I will go and I will create a queue online on Azure, and then we will connect through this code, and then we will see that, does it really go and lock anything? Does it go and delete anything, right? So that's the question we are trying to attempt. That is the first question. Again, I would tell everyone out here that please go and see this lab 9, which is Azure queues, visibility, timeouts, peak and DQ and so on, right? So there is a complete lab of queues out here, but this here I'm going to go and answer specific questions, right? So guys, any questions at least on the Azure queue perspective? Yes. So I can see some answers out there. So let me paste it. See guys, it is not important. The answers are not important for me. I know that from the exam perspective, answers are important. I can check that. So the code configures the lock duration. No, the code does not configure the lock duration. I don't see any minutes out here, so I'm not sure about that answer. It does not configure any lock duration, right? I don't see any seconds or time here. Second, what is it? The last message remains in the queue. No, the last message, yes, it remains in the queue. I didn't get this answer. And third one, the storage remains in the queue after the code runs. No, it does not. So this one here is false. It says that which of the sentences are true, huh? So the first one is actually false, because this code does not configure any kind of duration. The last message remains in the queue. Yes, by using a peek message or by using a get message, it does not delete from the queue, right? And the last is, the storage remains after the storage queue remains in the storage account. This is a very, yeah, this one is yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I read it wrong. The storage queue remains in the storage account. The storage queue will remain, right? The top is a message. This is a storage queue. So this is yes, right? Okay, forget about the answer. This answer is okay. We'll again go back and look at the answer, but let us do the demo here. So I'm going to go and create an Azure storage account. Let us do the demo. I'll just make this browser fonts bigger so you can see it. So let me go and create a storage account. So you can see that I'm going and I'm creating a storage account. So let us give a name here. I'll say Questpond storage, right? Let us not take anything premium. We don't want any kind of redundancy. Let us say no redundancy. Okay, locally redundant. Let us take the easiest one, cool. So always try to minimize, your credit card, so that you don't burn more money on credit cards. So you can see I've just said cool, said hot. I'm not going to go and explain all this, guys. This is all given on the video, just very quickly. This one here talks about how do you want your redundancy? Do you want to locally back it up? Do you want to back it up at a zone level? Do you want to back it up at a geographical level, right? So like, so geographical level means you back up in India as well. you back up in the US as well, right? So these are the various ways of redundancy. And cool and hot means that, let us say that if this storage account is accessed every now and then, so do you want to go and do some caching so you can make it hot and so on, right? So at this point I just created a very simple storage account out there. So let's create it. Inside this, let us go and create a queue. So, and what we will do is we will use the same code. So I'm going to go and this code out here, I'm going to go and copy this code. So we will use the same name of the queue, my queue 123. Now please note, you cannot have queue names uh, as capital. Don't ask me why, like, but the queue names in Azure cannot be given as capital, right? So what I'll do is I'll open Visual Studio out here. So let me open Visual Studio. Okay. Why is this? What happened? Deployment is in progress. So let me go ahead and open Visual Studio out here. And let us try to paste that code out there. And let us see what happens. So there it is, my Visual Studio is opening. We'll create a very simple console application. We'll paste the code out here. I would suggest everyone, if you're giving a Microsoft exam, do not by heart anything. Even if you fail, even if you go and even if you just pass, and if you're doing like 10, 15 demos, it is much worth than just getting that AZ204 certificate. So my honest suggestion to everyone is, you clear the exam or you don't clear the exam, it does not matter. It matters that did you do the demo, right? So that's the goal of this class as well. So console app.NET Core, I'll just select C#. Now remember that to connect to queues, to connect to blobs, or to connect to anything out there, there are lots of namespaces, ready-made namespaces given out here. Ready-made nugget packages given out here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and just paste that code as it is. So I will just go and I will paste this code as it is out here, and I'll just paste it as it is now because I know that this code works, right? So, and for the nugget packages, what I will do is, like, for example, you can see this is cloud storage account. I will just go out here and I will tell him to hunt the nugget package. Okay. There it is. You can see it when I go here. It says that, do you want to install this Microsoft Storage Common? There it is. You can see it is pointing me out. So I'll just say install, find and install the latest version. So it goes, you can see it down below, and that's at the top. You can see Microsoft Azure Storage. In the same way, let me go and see for the clients, what kind of namespaces I want. So I'm just installing out all that. So install, no, I just want to install it. I don't want to search it. Install this package, find the latest version. Oh, don't find the package, just install it. So there it is, guys. I just used the IntelliSense and I'm done, right? Now let me go to this myQ123. So let me create this myQ123. You can see here, it has created the storage account, but inside this we need to go and create the queue, right? So I'm going to go to the storage accounts out here, correspond storage, and over here let us go and create a queue. Now if you watch very closely, you can see here you can create a blob, you can create a file, you can create a tabular table, or you can create a queue. So I'm going to go and say I want to create a queue. Let us give this queue name as the same what is in the code, myQ123, right? And what I will do is, in this queue, I will just go and add one message, because we want to check that that message is locked or not, that message is read or not, and so on, right? So I'm going to go and click on this add message, and let us put a message out here in the queue. Remember that this message can be pushed from C#, this message can be pushed from Java. It has also endpoints, you can push message. There are thousands ways of doing it, but I'm going to just use the portal and push this message. This is a message in Azure queues, right? Do you have any kind of expiry? No, I don't have it. I'll just keep it. I'll just paste that message as it is. So you can see now in my queue, I have this message. Oh, sorry. So in my queue 123, I have this message. This is message in Azure queues, and we want to read it, right? So let us see now. Now, again, like the other thing is we also need the connection string. We need the connection string to the storage account. Remember, huh? At the top, we have storage account. At the top, we have storage account. So very quickly, just to show you the hierarchy, uh, this is a storage explorer view where you can see the full hierarchy of how it looks like. So at the top, you have the storage explorer. It can have blobs, it can have file shares, it can have queues and so on. So we need the connection string of the storage, right? So I'm going to go here to the storage account, and there is something called as access control uh, over here. So I'll go and click on this access control. Uh, why I, well, where is the connection string? Connection string. Okay, access keys. I'm sorry, access keys. Not access control, access keys. And you can see there is a connection string out here. There is a key given, and there are two connection string 1 and connection string 2. So I'll just take this connection string from here and I will just paste it out here, right? I know that you shouldn't be pasting connection string like that in C#. Please use app setting config file, or I would suggest also to use key vaults. See, now at this moment, if you see my connection string, even if I store in app config file or app settings.json, right, my connection string is exposed out, my key is exposed out, right, which is very bad, right? So it's not a good idea to, I know that it looks stupid, right? We have the password and the password is stored in a config file. Anybody can read it. So there is no security in that. So what you can do is you can use something called as key vault. So store that value into a key vault and then tell that this application has a permission for the key vault, and then get the key from that. That would be more safe, right? So we'll see key vault after we do this question out here. So I'm going to go and run this. Okay. First thing, so you can see I'm getting connected. Now the peak message as well as the get message, both of these functions read the message, right? So if you see here, there it is. It is going to the account storage, getting reference of my queue 123. If the queue does not exist at this moment, I've created it manually. So this, the queue will not be recreated again. And I'm trying to do a peak message after that. So you can see here it is. It's just waiting to, if that exists. So there it is. Now here he is actually trying to do a peak message, right? So if you see here, now once he does a peak message, I would like to go and see that. Let me first go to the queue out here and let us see that, do we see the message or not? Because once he does a peak message, does the message get hidden? Because, so what happens? Let us see that, right? So I'm going to go to our queue. When you don't get something, just type queues like this on the search, right? So if you're not able to find something, try to type it on the search. So there it is. You can refresh out here. So I'll just go and move this line to the next line. So I'm going to go and say, okay, peak message. Now let us go and refresh very quickly out here. Let us see what happens. You can see that the message has not gone. It has just peaked the message, but but here the message is still seen, right? So you can see that the message is there. The message is read. There is a message read out here. You can see this message out here. This is a message in Azure Queues. It is read, but nothing has been locked, right? So that is peak message. Now look at this get message. Now look at get message. Peak message is also for reading. Get message is also for reading. Remember, AZ204 is all about developer kind of thing. So you need to understand the API. You need to understand how it works. So get message. I'll go and click on get message. Now what? Now let us go and do a refresh. You can see it has gone from the queue. It has gone from the queue. But remember, it does not delete from the queue. This is a 30-second of visibility timeout. So after 30 seconds, once the 30 seconds has passed, you will see that the queue will come back. So this actually does not delete it from the queue. So that means both peak message, you can see again, it is back. Look at that. It is back. It is back. And very quickly, I would like to just point one more important thing out here. The message is back after 30 seconds. And you can see out here, there is a DQ count. I would like to just, everyone's eyes, you can watch here. This dequeue count, what it is saying is that, hey, like somebody has hold your message in the queue. He is doing something, but it is not an exclusive hold. And the 30 seconds also time, passed by. So when somebody comes in, like some other client comes in and says, like, give me the message, right? Then he will say, like, somebody is holding, are you sure you want to still process it? And that person has also finished his 30 seconds, right? So the default invisible timeout for a message is 30 seconds, right? So that means, let us go back to that question. So the first thing is, the last message read remains in the queue. This is true. Let's mark, what we understand. So let me delete everything. So let's take from this, whatever we have understood, the second sentence I've taken. So the last message remains in the queue, right? Whatever is last read is remain in the queue. Now the second is, the code configures the lock duration of the queue. No, it does not configure. Why? Because by default, there is a 30-second of timeout, but it does not configure. If you want to configure it, if you want to configure something, then you need to go and say in the get message. Now remember, our only get message can configure it, right? So in the get message, if you see here, there is a visibility timeout. There is a visibility timeout. So what I can do is I can say here, new time span. And let us say that now I don't want to lock it for 30 seconds. I want to lock it for 5 seconds. So I can give minutes, hours is 0, minutes is 0, and seconds is 5 seconds. So if you want to go and configure the timeout, then you have to give such kind of a code. By default, by default, you have that 30 seconds of thing, right? So if you see now this will lock only for 5 seconds. If you have seen the previous thing out there, it was locking for 30 seconds, but this will lock only for 5 seconds, right? So again, that first option out there, does it configure? No, it does not configure. But remember that this question also has a flavor. I would like to point out that this question also has a flavor, wherein in that question, they have given this new time span. So be very careful. If you get a question with a new time span, then say that yes, the first sentence is true, right? So now let us see 5 seconds. This is for 5 seconds. I go here. Let us go now. So 1, 2, 3, there it is, 5. I was speaking slow, 1, 2, 3. So you can see it went and it came out, right? So again, coming to that thing, this code configures the duration. No, it does not configure. And the storage queue remains in the queue. This is a very strange sentence. I mean, like, the storage queue will remain in the storage account. The storage queue is not getting deleted. This, the message can delete, but this my queue 1, 2, 3, I don't know what that sentence is, but it is not getting deleted, right? So that's again false, right? So guys, any questions on this question? What do we have here? I'll go to the chat here. I'm sorry if I missed anything. So peak message. So let's start with the let's start with all the questions. Yeah, access keys. I'm sorry, Amit. Let's see from the start. Difference between get and peak. I can see that there are two things out here. See, in get message, there are 3 functions actually. One is dequeue. Let me just paste it out here. This is a question which is asked by 2 or 3 friends. So difference between get and peak message, and also add one more. I'll add here dequeue. Enqueue means you will put something in a queue. When you say dequeue, it will read the message and it will delete it. There is a dequeue function. I have not put in the code because that exam did not have it. But if you say dequeue, then the message is deleted, right? When you say peak message, there is no lock. It does not go invisible. You have just peeked it, like how you peek from a window. So you have peeked it, but you are not so interested to delete that message. You are not harsh. You are probably just reading something, right? Get message is where it does not delete it, but it does go and do a lock. It does make it invisible for 30 seconds or whatever thing you want, right? So you can think about this. Get message is between of the dequeue and the peak message. The peak message does not delete anything. It does not hide anything, while the dequeue deletes it, as well as it puts a lock as well. So before the delete, he also puts a lock. While the get message in between, he does not delete it, but he does put a lock, right? So the difference is the timeout, the visibility timeout. So Okay, I'm starting from the top. What are the available services of Queue on Azure? So there are two ones actually, Divesh. So let me take this other question. See, one is there is a service bus. Actually, there are a lot actually, but one is service bus and one is in this Azure storage. So if you see here in that service bus, you can have queues, you can have a lot of other things. And then there is Azure storage queues out here. This service bus is like publisher subscriber. It like in queue, if you see, like you will see that there is like you send from one place and the other guy takes it, right? But there you can go and you can create topics. So you can say, I will publish it and it will go to 10 people, 10 clients, right? So we have something called a service bus as well. Is that same as MSMQ? Yes, the concept is same. Kulkarni sir, the concept is absolutely same, but MSMQ is installed locally. It is locally installed into your Windows operating system or whatever, right? But this is a ready-made queue, which is a part of Azure. It is a platform as a service. It is or I'll say a platform service. Yeah, a platform service, which is given. You cannot install Azure storage locally as such. Means in your Windows 7 or Windows Server, you cannot install this Azure service. It is available only through the this one. Okay. What is the Visual Studio version from? Visual Studio version is VS 2019. So that's my Visual Studio version. What is the difference between peak message? Prabha, I've already said. How to completely remove the message? Amit, you have to say DQ. You have to say DQ. You have to read the message, right? Okay. When to go for Azure queues when you have MSMQ? A good question. So see, like first thing, if you're not doing anything on, because here it is, if you're on Azure, then Azure queues is good. If you want something on Azure, you are on the cloud. But if you're locally doing something, you have your own infrastructure, then MSMQ is good. And it would be a bad idea to install MSMQ on a virtual machine and use it. That would be too costly for you, right? See, there are two things. One is, let's say you are local, you are having a local server in your company. You can't use only Azure queues. Azure queues, Azure storage, Azure blob are not like, it cannot be installed locally. There is a development platform given, but that is for development, not for production. So here you don't have any option. You will go for MSMQ, right? Now let's say you go on Azure. In Azure you go, if you want to use MSMQ, then you have to create a virtual machine and then install MSMQ in that. Or you have to buy this MSMQ as a separate service, which can become costly for you because you have to pay for MSMQ software license, right? And as well as, for the hosting, right? But by doing Azure queues, it is very, very cheaper. So I would go for just for Azure storage queues, right? If it is just one-to-one, but if it is like one-to-many, if it is complicated, must be I can think about the Azure service as well. How to calculate pricing of both the services. So remember that pricing of any services, use the Azure calculator. Azure calculator. Pricing calculator. You can go out here and you can select, whatever product you want. For example, as you said, you want Azure queues, right? Azure storage actually. And in that, yeah, storage account. Okay. Yeah, storage account added, but what I want in the storage account, you can see now, this is added to this one. By default, it is giving me something monthly. So let me reduce the cost here. Let me say I only want 10 GB. You can see now, guys, as soon as I say 10 GB, it has become $1 monthly. Look at the left-hand side. Be a miser, be a miser. A miser, when you're doing things out there. For example, I'll tell you, in my Azure account, I've hosted must be 10 websites. But the way, and in that, those 8 websites are demo, means my customer wants demo or something, right? If you choose it very carefully, you'll see that your bill is coming like 1,000, 2,000. So the way you configure your mobile, the way you control your mobile's cost, you can really do it in Azure. You can see here, Is $1. If it was 1,000, that was so much, right? Now, if I make this as cool, you will see that the cost will further. Oh, why did the cost rise? Huh? I'm not sure. I have no idea why. Archive is costly. I can see. I didn't choose anything else. I was expecting the cool to go down. It's like I have selected cool thinking that this is less amount. I need to really check that. I don't know why for a cool it is showing us $11 out here. That is something which I need to check, right? But you can use this. And here, let us, where is the queues? So queues, write operation, read operation. Uh, there was a way to add the queues here. This is the blob. Okay. So let me delete this. Where is the, right. So guys, if you just try to figure out from here, I will not go into details now. Okay, here it is, type queue, just take a queue storage. And what is the capacity? Let's say 10 GB, right? So you can use this Azure calculator to look into your cost, right? Okay. Yeah, select queue. Yes, I'm sorry, Amit, I was actually looking at that cost at the right hand side. And okay, so that's the way you can use the TCO calculator, the calculator which helps you to look into Azure thing. Okay, so that is the first question which I was targeting. And I would suggest everyone to please go and see the videos of this video specifically of Azure step by step, where I have explained Azure queues, DQ. It's a 30-minute video, visibility timeout, message ID, pop receipt ID, decouple updates. You can just have a look at this in detail video, right? Okay, now let us go and take the next question. So that's question number 20 we have answered. 21. Okay, 21. 21 question is very difficult to demo. I gave a lot of thought. I was thinking about how to demo you guys 21. Because it's not so easy. Must be somebody can figure it out. But I'll tell you what this question is. So let's talk about this question. Retain informations across restart of virtual machines, right? So this question is around this thing. So for example, now what happens is, let us say you use microservices or you use Docker, So for example, or assume like you use a scale set. So what you have done is you have said, okay, here is my VM. In this, my web application is running. Now this web application is storing some configuration information, for example, or must be diagnostic information into a drive, like, file.io.write. You are doing something and it is storing this information out here. And as a backup VM, to have high availability or whatever redundancy, you have one more VM out here, right? And this VM is, let us say, situated in US. This is in India somewhere, right? Now what happens if this VM goes down, right? If this VM goes down, right, automatically this VM will start, right? But the problem is that you have written something out here in this drive, and this VM also should get that information. So this question is around that when the VMs get restarted, or if you have a scale set, if you have such kind of environment of Docker or microservices or scale sets, right? Remember, we discussed scale set in the first class. Then how will you actually go and store the information? What is the property you need to configure, right? So let us go and read the question now. You are developing an ASP.NET Core application. Let me see if I can. Okay. You are developing an ASP.NET Core web application. You plan to deploy the application to Azure Web App for containers. So you have a container, and inside that container means like a Docker container or any other container, where you want to host your web app. So you are using microservices or Docker. The application needs to store some runtime data that has to be persisted. Across application restarts, right? So you can see a small code out here. He is writing environmental get some variables from someone, and he's trying to write at a file. So when he writes into a file, he writes into his C drive or his directory, right? So when the VM will start, that all thing will be gone off, right? So you need to configure that such that the application settings so that the diagnostic data is stored as required, right? So he's asking that what should I configure, and so on, right? Now remember that there is a property out here. First thing, let this answer or this option what they have given, let me explain it. Now, when you go and configure the application setting out there, there are lots of application setting which are configured, right? So you can see here, these are the application setting which we can set on the app service or on the web app container, right? In this is saying the local app data. Where is your local data stored? So definitely this cannot be the option. This property here is a local app data. So it says that if you want to store the local app data in a C drive or C drive Windows user, whatever, right? This is for cache, and this is also for cache. And this is not related, this .NET hosting optimized cache is not related really from the data perspective. Both of them are related from the perspective of performance. So it is not from the perspective of data, right? Now you can see here something called as websites enable app service storage. That's the answer actually. So this websites enable app service storage, if you try to Google this, let me just very quickly, this property, first thing, here it is. Sometimes if you don't know anything, it's possible, right? You can make out from the options as well that this can be a local app data. So this is not related to restarts. Second one looks to be like optimization, right? So even if you don't know it, I know you should know it, but I'm just saying, even if you don't know those properties also, or if you don't know this websites enable app service storage, you can still figure out the answer, right? I will come to the right hand side. So I'll say website. So if you look at it, this websites, what is that? Such a big name, underscore enable app service storage. You go to the Linux FAQ. So you can see there's a Linux FAQ out here. And if you go and if you read here, so website enable, look at this. So let's read this sentence very, very carefully. I'm going to go and also put a full screen out here and we'll both read it. So as I've said that, again, this demo is a bit difficult, but we can talk about it. This demo can only be seen when you restart containers and so on. And at this moment, really, I don't have the stamina to do it. So here it is. First thing, there is a home directory. Whenever you go and configure any container out there, there's a home directory. This home directory is nothing but the share directory, mount share, which is there. Okay. So now it says that if I'm using my own container, I want to platform a mount share to the home directory. If websites app service storage is unspecified, or it is set to true, right? By default, the value is true. Then the home directory will be shared across scale instances. File return will be persisted across restarts, right? So that says that you have to go to your website's enable app service and make it as true, and the directory is home, right? So if you look at the answer out here, this D drive, there is no D drive until you have a, what do you call, a exclusive container or exclusive VM, you get this D drive and so on, or else, there is nothing called as a D drive, right? So it's only we have a home. So just say home. There is a local, but this local is only for local for that container or for that VM, right? So home is a shared directory. So home and websites enable app service, you have to mark it as true, right? So the right answer is, you will select this, you will say that this is true, right? This one, and this one you will select as /home. So guys, this demo we will not do. I was thinking various things how to demo it, but then I just gave it up because it's quite big. But you can try it out if you're doing some real-time projects out there. So guys, any questions on this one? We are not doing this. The first question probably in this class. I'm not doing the demo just because it's too much out there, to create a Linux container, Docker. And I thought that this will take I have to give 2 hours and then only I will answer this question, right? It's not that we can't do this demo. It's just that it is very lengthy. Okay. Any questions here? Any queries? Yes. So I can see no questions. Let me check out here. Let's see in the chat. I'm sorry. Yeah. So Ramesh, these questions are question support. I think this is given as a download, right? Can you please tell me? These all are given as a download. Only these new questions which I've added now, 20, 21, 22. we will look from there, right? Okay. So this is here. Uh, the last question here is about Key Vault. It is about Key Vault, right? So what I will do for now, because we have like almost like 10-15 minutes only, and this question is also very big because this question involves PowerShell with Key Vault, right? But let me at least talk about Key Vault out here. Anyone here, what is a Key Vault in Azure? People who are coming for revision, in the previous also, I think in 900 we talked about Key Vault. What exactly is a Key Vault? Secure data. Okay, so I can see from one of our friends, secure data, storing certificate. So I can store certificate anywhere. What is special about Key Vault? Yeah, but what is special about Key Vault? I can store information into I can encrypt it, I can do a lot of things, but this Key Vault is like a locker. Yes. Special hardware. That's right from Amit. Special hardware. This Key Vault out here is, so if you see guys, I don't know if you have ever heard about Key Vault. See what happens is, let us say that if I store my username and password in a computer everyone knows keyboard, everyone knows Windows, everyone knows that everybody stores his information into the Chrome password key. So I can go and log into your computer. I know how to access it. But if you give me a hardware which is not having any monitor, or if you give me a hardware uh, which looks something like this, right? So Key Vault is not a new thing. Uh, Key Vault hardware, I don't know. If you give something like this to me, like this, like a hard drive, where I don't know what to do with it. So either the person can really hack it if he's really smart, right? And believe me, I have seen Key Vaults, which are so weird. Yeah, that's the BC Vault, unorthodox hardware. That one, look at this one. You can see it is so weird. There is one small USB and we have no idea what to do, how to go it, right? So either the person will destroy the hardware, right, or either he will really hack it, right? So so that means that on Azure also, for whatever reason, I don't, let's say that you say that like you are a bank or a financial institution or some kind of institution where data is very important. So you say that, see, I want to store my keys into Azure, but I want to store it in a location in a special hardware. So what Azure team has done, they have given this kind of Key Vault hardwares attached to the machines, right? So you can go and you can hire this Key Vault and you can store your information into this, right? And then the way it works is like this. So for example, now let us say you store connection strings there. Okay, I'll show you how to create a Key Vault. So you go ahead, you take a Key Vault service, right? And you store connection strings in it, assume, because you don't want connection strings to be stored in your application. So now here is your application. I'm just giving an example. A connection string is an example. Here is an application. So what you will do is you will go and you will tell your Windows Active Directory that you will register this app to this Key Vault. So what will happen now is your app will first get logged into the AD. So we will say that this app has an access, or we can go and we can create an access here in the AD that this app has access to Key Vault. So what will happen now is this app will go and log into the Key Vault, and then he will not give anything. He will just access the Key Vault and he will access the key and give the connection string. Now the good part here is that inside your app setting.json, nothing is there. No connection string is stored. All this is stored into this special weird hardware out here, right? Which is stored. So this is very secure, isn't it? So what you do is that you store your information on Key Vault and you get it accessed through the AD. You tell that this client has access to this, and then you can get the connection string in memory. So you can take the connection string in memory, load it, use it, and then unload it, right? So to create this Key Vault, so to use this Key Vault, you can go here to Azure and just type here Key Vault. Key Vaults, very easy. I'll say add a Key Vault. So that means that I'm adding a special hardware where I will store my information. So pay as you go. I will just remember, this increases your cost. Don't be so happy. This increases your cost, right? So it becomes like a James Bond, everything secured, but it increases your cost. So I'll just say rest1 here, enter the name. I'll say Quest Bond Secrets. wherever standard, just take the standard one. I don't want any kind of recovery, just disable it. No recovery. If this key is destroyed, it is destroyed, or else it allows for a soft delete. Soft delete means if you go and if you say enable the recovery for this fault, it will, you cannot, even if you delete it, you can still recover it if you want it, right? So I don't want a soft delete. Remember, each one of these options will cost you. So just try to see that whatever is best for you, create. Now inside this key vault, I can store two informations. One is I can store my values like connection string or something, right? Or I can also go and generate a key by using a standard algorithm like SHA and DES and PES. Sometimes you would like to say that, hey, my key will be stored into key vault. You want to have a double security, so that also again here. So it stores keys and it stores value. So there it is. You can see it has now given me an exclusive hardware. I don't see that hardware, but let us trust Microsoft that there is a hardware. I'm sure that this has a lot of implications, and companies like Microsoft will not really say that there is no key vault, right? So there should be a key vault. With all the trust, we go ahead. So this is a key vault out here. So you can see here, I can store keys or I can store my secrets. So for example, I can go and say, let us secrets means like connection string. So I'll say that this is my connection string, which I want to store here. And the value is something like localhost, right? And I will just create it. So once I created this value at this moment is stored securely into that hardware, right? And this value can be accessed. So you can see that's the value out there. And this value can be accessed through this URL. So this URL out here did not directly, guys, not directly. You have to give a permission out here, right? And in case if you're logged in through your Azure account and you are the owner, right? You can always go and you can see the value out here. So you can see this, so show secret value. Localhost, there it is. It is showing me localhost, right? Hide it. Yeah. So yeah, because I'm logged in as this one, right? So you have two secrets you can store here. One is the secrets and one is a key. When you are actually storing a key, for that key, he will say, okay, I will encrypt again by using RSA or something else, right? So guys, any questions here? What is the use of Azure Key Vault? Now this question out here, we'll not take this question now because this has to be run with PowerShell and so on. So it says that you have an Azure account. You have two Azure accounts, two Azure subscriptions. You need to restore a storage account key from an Azure Key Vault. So depending on the subscription, you have to retrieve that key, and then you have to do things. So he has given some, steps out here. He's saying that how these PowerShell commands will run. At this moment, I've shown you how to create manually. So he's saying that, okay, like if you're supposed to use PowerShell, how you will do it, right? So guys, in the next class, I will demo this thing. For now, let us not get into this. So I hope at least the key vault is, yes, we will see a demo of this, right? You can store docs also. Yes, you can store docs and PDFs as well, Amit. Yes. As a developer, Divesh, you can read those keys. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Well, actually, there is an option as well for it. It's a good question. That like, no, as a developer, I shouldn't be able to read it, right? So there's an option out there saying that one-time key. So in that case, if you need to have a key to get that key, or you need to see at the end of the day, there is a trust, right? That's what I'm like. At the end of the day, somebody has to have the key, right? Somebody has to see it, right? So there is already a trust given between my account and that key vault. So if you remove this trust, then this account will also not be able to see it. What is this login? This login is an account actually. This login here, this quest pond or whatever is an account. So if I can go and do like this, let us say I create from one account, and then I say that this account does not have access to the hardware, then he will not be able to see it as well. No, Divesh, it's right. You will create one account which is like a CEO account or the owner of the company. He should not forget his password. See, all the passwords are connected, right? And he will say that this account has access or not. So, or either he just creates a key and gives it. And he gives the trust. He gives the trust only to the application. This is what I know that I have done. We have done this for one of the banks. So in that bank, what they have is they have a security department. So that security department has a separate login, and that separate login what it has done is it has stored all its information into key vault. So only they have the access, right? And also some of the board of directors. Now, what they do is that if this application has to have access, they say that this application will have an access to the key vault and no one else. So then the other logins will get no access to this key vault. They will not be able to see it. Is there any benefit of using Azure CLI? Yes, Nirav, there is a benefit. See, like what happens is, let us say there is a question here, which is a good question. Guys, in the next class, what we will do is I will do the demo of Azure Key Vault by using connection string, wherein I will say that this connection string will not be stored into app config or whatever, the app settings. And only that application will be able to retrieve the key vault and the other application will not be able to. So we'll see that demo. Here is a good question. So can anyone tell me why I can go and I can create a key vault by using normal portal? So why we have to use PowerShell and all these things? Why we have to automate it? What can be the reason? Anyone? We can use, no, not in another platform. CLI, you can't use, nothing faster, no faster. It's okay if 2 days pass, to create a, yes. So that's the right thing from Prabha. So what happens is, see, normally like this key vault is okay. But let us say that if let's say somebody says, go and create 100 VMs of size 8 GB RAM. So in that case, like you can't really go and do it manually, right? Or let us say, as Prabha has said, that we want to create 3 key vaults, one for development, one for this. So you get key vault, key vault, key vault. So you go and automate it, right? So the point of this automation is that and remember, like I'll just give an example. I am hosting an application called as Feva, right? Feva, which is an open source. This is my application which I'm created. I've hosted it out here. Now what happens is, a lot of times I want to do this. I have created one small, how do you say, an automation out here, wherein if you look at this automation, just I'll show you, and I do use a lot. So if you see here, this is an automation I've done. I've created a bat file. So I have all my code into my GitHub. So you can see this is my GitHub account out there. So what I do out here is, this is not the full code, but here it has Angular, it has MVC code. So what I do, I want to automate it. If somebody gives a new build to me, I will go and get the clone. I will go and I will do npm. I will go and I will do ng build. I will go and I will do a lot of things. I will run my EF core, create my tables, and then say, hey, go and now create an Azure web application by using a CLI. So what happens is, all this becomes automated like DevOps. So I can do automation as well, right? Or else, this whole thing, believe me, I have to, I remember, actually the code is very big, 100 lines of code out there. So I just go and I run this bat file like this, and I can just go and run this, and it starts installing, creates an Azure web app, creates an SQL server by using CLI, and then runs it. And not only that, I go one step ahead. I say like, okay, the default values, as well as some basic testing. Basic testing also I've run it over here, right? So a lot of things of automation out there which you can do by CLI and PowerShell. Okay, guys. So that brings us to the end of this session. So today we'll stop.